What's up, YouTube? Today, we're going to be doing another mobile mechanic ride along. First job is going to be a starter on a Toyota Corolla, I believe it is. It's about 30 minutes north of my house. Just got through drinking my coffee. It's about 10:21 a.m. I start a little late. I am a bit of a night owl, so I kind of start working a little later in the day. I need to work on that. I'd like to be getting up earlier so I can get maybe one more job in every day. That's kind of a personal problem that I have, but I am working on that. But anyway, had me some coffee, got up, got dressed. Like I said, it's just before 10:30. We're heading to our first job right now. It's about 30 minutes north of my house. It's going to be a starter replacement on a Toyota Corolla. Stay tuned. Alright, so we have arrived on scene here at the vehicle. And check it out. That sounds to me like the starter's working. So it looks like we got a whole nother issue. That's why we always take a look and diagnose the problem first instead of just putting on what the customer says to. I mean, sometimes I'll do that depending on what it is, but in this case, I'm absolutely not going to put a starter on this vehicle because it's not going to do the customer any good whatsoever. There may be a fuel or a spark issue or compression issue or something like that, so we're going to take a quick look here and see what's going on, but we definitely don't have a starter issue on this vehicle. Alright guys, so we're pretty much done with this one. Sorry I didn't film most of it. It was just me sitting around letting the car run for the most part, but I did want to explain, what I saw while I was here. I did get it started after a few attempts. I just kept cranking on it and I pushed down on the gas pedal a little bit because it was kind of sputtering. It seemed almost like it wanted to start, but it was like flooded or something, and I could smell gas while I was trying to start it. And so I did eventually get it running. I let it warm up. It seemed like it had a really high idle, and it wasn't like when you got a bad idle air control where it's just up, down, up, down, up, down. Like it would run fine for a while, like a minute or two, and then it would rev up like 300 or 400 RPMs for a few seconds, and then it would kind of drop back down to where it was. And eventually the check engine light did come on for a PO300 multiple cylinder misfire, PO302 for a cylinder 2 misfire, and I believe it was PO136 or 138, but it's high voltage on the downstream O2 sensor, indicating lack of or lesser oxygen in the exhaust than what there should be. So based on the codes and the way that the vehicle is acting, I suspect that it has leaking fuel injectors. The injectors are likely letting a little bit of drip go in while they're not supposed to, causing the misfire. The spark plugs are likely not able to burn as much fuel as what's being put into the cylinder, and because of that, that's causing a lack of oxygen in the exhaust as well as the multiple cylinder misfire. Unfortunately, I don't really have the experience or the equipment to do a leak test on the fuel injectors. So I'm going to recommend the customer to an outside shop for the follow-up service on that. But I definitely can say without a doubt that the starter has not failed, so I'm not going to replace that. I'm not going to waste the customer's money on that. But the vehicle has 275,000 miles on it, and I could be wrong, but I would imagine, just based on the look of the engine and just how people are with maintaining their vehicles, I'm pretty sure these are the original fuel injectors, and with 275,000 miles, it would not surprise me at all if at least one or two of them have developed a leak. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend the customer out to another shop to see if they can test those injectors for leaks for him, and hopefully he's able to get that resolved. We're just going to charge for our diagnostic today. Sometimes diagnostic's not always done in one part. We do need to be charging for our time. We do not charge for a guaranteed answer. I got to the point where I know I don't have the tools and or experience to move forward with the diagnostic. However, I did do enough to determine what exactly are the next steps. It's not like I just got here and fucked off for a half hour or an hour and bullshitted the customer and charged him for an hour of my time. That's not what I did. I did quite a bit of research on this vehicle. I did an idle relearn procedure, which actually did seem to help a little bit with the idle, but that random spike up of a few hundred RPMs was still there. So I definitely do suspect that there is a injector leak for sure on this one. I wish that there was a way where I could maybe be around when that's done just to kind of learn some more from this particular issue. But the main point is we did not replace that starter because there was no reason to. And I'm going to go ahead and explain all of this to the customer, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next job. Another little side note I want to throw out about this job. I just finished speaking to the customer, and he was very, very happy with the outcome. He really appreciated my honesty and the fact that I clearly articulated and explained the condition of what's going on. I feel like that comes with time, but I do have the ability to basically explain how mechanic stuff works to a regular person. I was able to explain kind of what I think is going on, as well as why I think that's going on in a way where it makes sense to the customer, and the customer was very happy about that. So I just want to point that out there, guys, to work on your skills of explaining car stuff to people who are not mechanics. You can maybe practice it on your friends. Don't do it too much. They might get a little irritated if they're not really car people. But that's definitely something as a mobile mechanic or just a mechanic who talks to customers in general. It's a good skill to have to learn how to explain stuff to people in layman's terms, I guess, where they can understand it. So now we're going to head on to the next job. Alright, usually I eat lunch after my first job because I'm usually starving at that point. So I'm going ahead and doing that now. I got me some Wendy's because it was close by the customer's house. First customer. Second customer, unfortunately, is 45 minutes away, back southwest of here. Generally, I don't have appointments that are that far apart, but unfortunately, these two are like at opposite ends of my service area. So that kind of sucks, but I'm going to go ahead and eat my lunch. And the next job is going to be a car's not starting inspection on another Toyota. This one's a Sienna. So we'll be back once I arrive. Alright guys, we just arrived here on scene at job number 2. It's a Toyota Sienna. Car won't start inspection. Customer said the keys are in it, so we're going to go ahead and take a look, see what's going on here. Alright, so we got this Noid light on there. We're going to see if it flashes here. Alright, now we're going to check for spark. Alright guys, look at that wicked valve cover leak. Anyway though, I believe that this one, we got good spark and we got good fuel. I tried my best to put all of that on video. I know the LED lights on the Noid lights are not very bright, but we did have fuel. We did get it started a couple times, but then it kind of cranked and cranked and cranked and wouldn't start again. Considering the way it sounds, I believe the compression is good. I'm not going to pull all the spark plugs out and do a compression test, but I know that the fuel is good. I even went ahead and cracked the nut. It's like right around here on the fuel rail, and there's definitely fuel getting to the engine. We definitely have spark, as you can see from the video. And considering that everything like that is good, I believe we have a timing issue. Vehicle has over 190,000 miles, and customer states that that sticker is correct. So the last time it was done was 80,000 miles, so it's definitely due for a timing belt. I would recommend doing a relative compression test while monitoring the cylinder 1 spark plug timing to determine if the spark is occurring at or near top dead center, as it should be. However, unfortunately, I do not own an oscilloscope. It hurts my pride, hate to say it, but this is going to be another one of those where we're going to probably have to recommend the customer to an outside shop. I do need to go ahead and spend some money and upgrade my tool arsenal, I guess, with an oscilloscope, but unfortunately that's not in the budget at the moment. So we're just going to explain everything to the customer once again. We're going to move on to the next job. Alright guys, just a quick little recap here. We just left the second job, and unfortunately that one turned to shit, kinda. I made my best efforts to diagnose the vehicle. I explained everything to the customer, relative compression test while also monitoring the spark plug timing on cylinder 1. And, you know, I diagnosed the fuel and the spark system to determine if that's working. I explained the next steps to the customer. Sometimes, you know, mobile mechanics, we're not going to have every single tool you can think of, and really at this point the only tools that I don't have are the extremely expensive stuff like oscilloscopes, high quality fuel pressure tester, and things of that nature. And so basically when I explained all that to the customer, he seemed a little upset and said that he thought he was paying for the car to get started for some reason. Now, when I'm doing my business, I make it abundantly clear, you know, what the customer's paying for, what's going on. But some of these customers with my contract work, they just schedule online, so they may not actually speak to a person. They may just read how things work and think that they understand how stuff works, but there could be just some misunderstanding. But I've definitely had that happen in the past. This is not the first time by any means where I go to do a diagnostic and the customer thinks that they're paying for the car to get fixed, and that's unfortunately not how it works. Diagnostic time does cost money. We don't have parts to fix your car. Like, how, you know, if your car's not starting, let's say it is the timing belt in this case, I'm sure as hell not going to do the timing belt today. I didn't bring the parts. I didn't know that was wrong until an hour after looking at the car or whatever it was. So it's just unrealistic for certain customers to expect the car to be fixed and diagnosed in the same day, in the same appointment. It just doesn't always work that way. Now, if you just need a hose clamp replaced or something tightened up or something like that, that's a different story. But in most cases, that's unrealistic to expect. So anyway, the customer just asked me to leave it running, or I asked if he wanted me to leave it running, and he said, yeah. He was kind of sarcastic about it. He's like, I guess I'll just never shut it off again. That'll be the way to keep it running. And at that point, I was just like, okay, dude, and I'm leaving. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. If he's got an issue, I told him what to do. Like I said, I made my best efforts to diagnose the vehicle with the tools and experience that I have at my disposal. And I believe that I have made the logical explanation, or came up to the logical conclusion rather of what would be the next steps in order to fully diagnose the vehicle. It's just, unfortunately, I do not have an oscilloscope. I'm working on that. It's honestly the highest tool on my list in regards to priority. What do I want to get next? Stuff like that. An oscilloscope is way up on the list. But anyway, that's enough of that. I hope you guys can kind of feel where I'm coming from on this. I hope I don't look like the bad guy here. But anyway, moving on to the next job. I'm going to have to look it up and see what it is and see where it is. I just left that customer's house and started driving off, man, because sometimes I can just tell by their attitude right away that I just need to get the hell out of here. So anyway, I'm going to look up and see where the next job is and what it is, and I might stop and grab something to drink here, and I will be right back. Alright guys, we just arrived here at job number 3. It's Pontiac Torrent starter replacement. Hold on the camera here for you. So we got it jacked up. We're going to go ahead and get this out of the way so we can disconnect our battery. Under here, we disconnect the negative cable. And then got me a moving blanket laid out because it got a little rainy on me earlier, so here's the starter here. So we're gonna of course need to disconnect the electrical, and we're also gonna need to take out this little bolt, and that's gonna remove the cover here, and it's gonna allow us access, better access. Anyway, we may not have to take that off because the other bolt's here, but I'm gonna go ahead and probably take that off anyway, just to make sure that the starter doesn't get hung up on it or anything. Another thing I'm gonna probably do is remove this bracket here as well, these 3 bolts, because I don't know if I'll be able to, well, I might be able to actually, I'm wrong, so we'll have to see on that bracket. But anyway, there's the starter right there. It's just 2 bolts plus the electrical. This is just a connector that unplugs right here, and then of course we've got our power feed next to it. So electrical connector, power feed, that's probably going to be a 13 millimeter, and then those bolts are probably going to be 13s as well. If they are not 13, then they're going to be 15. I can't remember what they are exactly, but we'll find out here in just a moment. Okay guys, so the first thing you want to do here is go ahead and test your battery. Make sure that it's pretty much fully charged. We do have over 12 volts. It's about 12.2 roughly. It's not fully charged, but it's definitely enough to make the starter do something. And it just kind of clicked. So we went down here and I put my remote starter switch on those 2 studs. Nothing really happened, nothing different. And so after doing that, I checked the power feed by checking for voltage here. And then you put your other lead on a ground. We did have 12 volts at the battery, so that indicates that our power wire coming from the battery down to the starter is good. Next thing I did was I connected the 1 lead to the starter case with an alligator clip, and I pushed the other lead up there and went up and grabbed it, connected it directly to the ground on the battery. And we do have continuity there, so power and ground are both good. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to set you guys up because I need to see this myself. And I'm here by myself, so I'm going to have to film this. But I've got the ground hooked up right there, and then the power is probed into the signal wire there. And I'm going to go ahead and try to turn the key, and we're going to see if we get a voltage signal there. If we do, we got a bad starter. We're going to go ahead and replace it. All right. Alright, so as you guys could see there, we did have a signal voltage, which indicates all of the electrical to our starter is good. Now there are a couple variables there. There could be some corrosion and everything like that between the cable here and the stud. And you could do a voltage drop test between those two to determine if there's any lost voltage there, and that could potentially indicate some corrosion there. But this one just looks a little greasy from oil leaking on it. I don't really necessarily think there's any corrosion necessarily, and everything else checks out good. So we're going to go ahead and replace the starter. First thing I'm going to do is take out that small bolt, and then the two big ones, and then the electrical connector up there. First thing I'm going to do though is disconnect that battery. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started here on removing the starter. And we'll go ahead and get the electrical disconnected first. I already went ahead and unplugged the signal connector there. And I'm telling you guys, these offset wrenches are amazing. I wish I would have bought a set of these years and years ago, because they are just really handy for fitting in certain spaces. I mean, I could probably, almost certainly get by without it, but the fact that it brings it out just a little bit, I really like that a lot. It turns it almost into like how a ratchet and socket would be. Except now that I got that loose, I probably am going to get a ratchet wrench. Change of plans. We're going to use a swivel socket instead. Get this hooked up real quick. Now, okay. Well, that's off of there. Set that to the side. The damn nut will come out of my socket. There we go. We'll take these two off. The next thing we need to do is we'll see if these are 13s or if they're 15. Looks like they are 15. So we'll get us an extension here. We'll crack those loose with the ratchet. Very nice. We can fit in there without taking that bracket off, so that's good. Go ahead and take this one off as well. Now I kind of see why they want you to take that off. So we're going to have to get that 8mm because that doesn't go on straight. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take this off. If it'll come off. I feel like that's gonna break, maybe. Okay, it's coming, I think. Just to be safe. I'm gonna tighten it back down a little bit, kind of break any shit free that might be on them threads so it don't break on me. Okay, there we go. I'm not exactly sure what the point of this little cover is unless they designed the engine wrong and realized that there's a huge gap here and they're like, oh, let's cover it up with plastic because our machining was wrong or something. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? I know what this is now. It kind of makes sense. A lot of times they give you a flywheel inspection cover, and this just happens to be kind of the same as the starter cover. And they're definitely leaking for sure. It's probably, oh yeah, it's definitely coming from the valve cover. You can see it going all the way up there. Okay, now we got that busted loose with our ratchet. Now, I'm going to take the good old D-Walt. Get that off of there. Oh, this damn light, I'm just going to leave it on the ground. Okay. Hold it in place. There we go. Oh, come on out of there. There we go. And we'll kind of wiggle it free and out of there. Now you can really see the flex plate, flywheel, whatever you want to call it. And here's our bad starter. So we're going to go ahead and grab the new one and get it placed in there. Alright, so now we got our new starter, and normally I would try to clean some of this shit up a little bit, but in all reality the valve cover leak is so bad that it's probably just going to look the exact same way again in a week or so. So unless he gets the valve cover gasket replaced, there's really not much sense in wasting any time trying to clean that off. So we're going to hold this up like that. We'll get us a socket, get one of these bolts started. And then once we got it up in place, I'm going to go a little farther. There we go. That way we can line this one up a little easier. Okay. There we go. What the hell isn't it screwing in? Am I off center? Okay, there we go, there we go. That's gotta be it. Oh yeah, 100%. Very nice. And we'll get our old D-Walt again, hit it lightly. Oh yeah, we ain't strip it out or nothing. We can go all the way up with it. And same on the other side. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and get our ratchet. And tighten them up. Make sure you don't over tighten them, of course. Okay, that should be good. Now we'll go ahead, we'll put this cover back in there, line it up right, get our little bolt. It's got a little oil and grease on it, so hopefully it'll go back in there pretty easy. And we'll find our 8mm. Go ahead and tighten it up. All right. Now this one's a little weird. It's like they put the solenoid on backwards or something. I hope this still plugs in. Okay, it's got to go like that. Okay, dope. Very nice. I was going to be extremely upset because I think there's actually a couple different versions of this starter, if I remember correctly. And I think it may or may not have been this engine, but I know there's an engine out there where they got a couple different starters, and the only real difference is the connector for the signal wire like that. I don't know if it was like a year-to-year change or what, but I've had that happen to me before, and it is incredibly disappointing when it does happen, especially once you've got to this point. Starter lines up perfectly, and you just can't plug the damn thing in. I'd almost be tempted to change the damn connector out before I change the starter again, unless the connector was hard to find or something. And I really hope that this ring terminal will seat properly. I'm about to get me a 1/4 inch with a 13. Well, actually, we'll just use this swivel again and hope for the best. I'll try to tilt it up a little. Main thing I'm worried about is I just want to make sure that it fully seats, otherwise it could arc and or just straight up not work or something stupid, so I want to make sure that's good. Let me just triple check here. Okay, that feels tight. There doesn't seem to be a major gap or anything, because I think there's a nut on the back side here. You can kind of see how my finger's going behind it, but I think it's just because it's bolted onto a nut. And we got that in there. So everything should be put back together here. Of course, I got to put my tools back, but I'm going to go ahead and take this 8mm and we're going to reconnect the battery and try to start it real quick. Tighten this bad boy up. I'll set this back on top of the battery and start it out. Alright, as you guys can see, that was another job well done. Perfect example of testing and not guessing. That's why I didn't even turn off the camera, because I felt very confident that that vehicle was going to start, and I wanted you guys to see, basically from start to finish, the results that you can get when you are properly testing these vehicles to determine what's actually wrong with them. So, kind of ironic, but our first two jobs were both on Toyotas, and our second two jobs are both on Pontiacs, and both Pontiac Torrents, believe it or not. The second Pontiac Torrent that I'm headed to is only about 10 minutes away from the first one. And this one we're going to be doing a wiper linkage or wiper transmission replacement. And so once I arrive, I will show you guys what's up with that. Alright, here's the Pontiac Torrent. Probably not going to film too much of this. I didn't even hook up the mic for it. Studs broke on that side, nuts missing for both sides. I might have a nut we can use. And that piece wasn't missing, but it was all loose. Same with this. I mean, all this shit is loose as soon as I got here. So I don't know if someone tried to do this first and got stuck or what. And normally I don't bother with those kind of jobs, but this particular one isn't all that hard. There's the linkage there, and yeah, it's definitely fucking broke. You can see back there, that's where that bushing would have gone. So we got 3 10mm bolts right there, one electrical connector right here. So I'm gonna go ahead, disconnect all of that, and we'll get those bolts out. Come on. There we go, we got that guy out of there. Now we'll get those 310s put in the new part. Alright, so we got it out. There was a little hole right there that the wiring harness clips into. You get it out, you flip it over, and I believe those are 10s or 11s, maybe 12s, some shit like that. We'll see here. It's not a 10. It's not an 11, so they're probably a 12. They may even be a 13, but they're probably a 12. So we'll go ahead and hook this up. Yeah, definitely a 12. So we'll go ahead and pop this off. Okay, and our motor should come off of there. We can put the new linkage in the same way. Put this back on top. Put our bolts in. Alright, so we got her all put back together. I did forget to mention there's a nut right here that holds this part of the linkage onto the wiper motor. So you want to make sure you take that off. This linkage can move and pivot and swivel, so don't worry about that being in your way. You can just kind of pivot and swivel it out of the way, but try to reset the position as close as you can to the way that it was before. Now we're going to set this bad boy in there, hopefully. Kind of go over here a little like that, so we can get that down in there. And then we'll start pulling it over to the side here, and that should pretty much line us up. That's what it's going to look like. Sorry guys, had a phone call come in for a potential job on my business line, but assholes just called and said nothing. I get a bunch of calls like that, and it really pisses me off because I'm like, alright, cool, another job, new business owner, trying to make a name for myself out here, trying to do some jobs, and people are calling, wasting my damn time, and on top of that is right in the middle of a damn video. So I apologize to you guys for that little interruption there. Just a little update on my business for those who care. I've only done 5 appointments this year, 5 appointments total. Every other car that you see me working on is contract work. So I'm definitely trying to get some more of my own jobs out here in the Kansas City area. But for now, this is what we got. Alright, now we're going to plug her up, see if it works. Probably going to turn on the wipers and everything before I connect the blades, just so that I know everything is reset and in the park position. Another thing I want to point out real quick is if you, I believe anyway, if you put this part on backwards, so if it were 180 from how it is, it can actually cause the wipers to spin in the opposite direction. I feel like that happens to me a whole bunch of times, or has happened to me a bunch of times in my life. Not exactly sure why. I try my best to take note of everything, but sometimes you put it back together backwards, but I believe after taking it back apart and flipping that thing around, that our wipers should be working properly. Alright, so if you look right there at that stud, you can see how it turns towards us and then back towards the passenger side. When I turn it off to park, it rolls to the passenger side and stops. When I had it on there the other way, it was doing the exact opposite of that. And if I were to put the wipers on like that, it would have been a major problem for the customer. So I'm definitely glad I was able to realize that mistake and resolve it before we put the vehicle back together. So make sure you take note of the way that that comes off of there and put it back exactly. Otherwise, you'll have the same issue as me. So I'm going to go ahead and put these trim pieces back on. I probably won't film much of that. They pretty much just set down in place for the most part. This guy didn't even have any of his clips, so I'm just going to basically put it back on there exactly how it came off, and then we're going to move on to the last job of the day. Alright, working good now. So we'll go ahead and let the customer know we're all finished up, and we'll be going on to the next job. Next job's going to be a battery replacement. I'm not sure what it's on though, but I think the lady told me she actually just wants a jump start. So we'll see what she wants when we get there. But I think that one's about 30 minutes from here too. I've been driving all over the place today. But stay tuned, and I'll be back when we get to the next job. Alright guys, well unfortunately and fortunately that last job went to shit. The lady basically, we do what's called a pre-authorization when we arrive at an appointment, which will basically put a hold on the customer's account for the amount that the service is supposed to cost, just to confirm that they have the money and make sure that, you know, you don't do the job and then not get paid. But the pre-authorization for the battery failed, and that was kind of sort of my fault, because she did say that she doesn't think she needs a battery, so I probably should have just switched it to the inspection first and done the pre-authorization. But either way, once I gave the customer the inspection price, which I won't list here because I know that prices are different all around the country, and what's high to somebody might not seem like very much to someone else, but it is the going rate for the company I work for, I will say that. So it's nothing, you know, it's not like it's crazy high or anything like that. It's not like we're charging $1,000 for a jump start or nothing crazy. But basically, once I gave the price for the diagnostic fee of determining why the car won't start, I mean, if it is just a jump start, great, but if it's something else, you know, it's something else, and we need to determine what that is. And so anyway, the customer decided to go ahead and cancel because they didn't want to pay that price either, I guess. And so ended up charging a driving fee at least on that one. And it's about 6:15 now, heading back home, about a 30-minute drive again. Drove all the way out here for nothing, but that's all right. I guess it wasn't for nothing. It was for 25 bucks I got to come out here, so that's fine. All in all today, I think I made a little under $220 for 5 jobs, quick ones, you know. But man, it just has me thinking, like, if I was doing all that from my own business, I mean, I would have probably tripled that amount, and the customers wouldn't have paid any more, you know what I mean? So I could have totally made like $600 today, but we're working on that. I'm very happy to have the customers that I do and be able to do these jobs and film these videos for you guys. And 200 and something is still certainly not a bad day at all. It'll definitely keep the lights on for sure. But anyway, that's going to pretty much be the end of the video here. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I am a little over 500 subs now. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 as quickly as possible. I know that there's like 70-80% of you guys that are watching that are not subscribed, so if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I will see you next time.